My wife, 40F, and I, 42M, have been married for 3 years. We don't have any kids together, but she has 2 kids from a previous relationship, 21F and 19M. I have decent relationships with her kids, but due to their ages when I met their mom, I never assumed a father-type role and they never expected me to fill that for them. Their bio dad is involved in their lives and we all get along pretty well. My stepdaughter is at college, so we don't see her very often. My stepson, Joe, lives a few hours away from us with his GF and works full-time. A couple weeks ago, Joe called my wife and asked if he and his GF could come visit. My wife was very excited because she hadn't seen Joe in a while. But Joe never just visits for fun. It's almost always when he needs something and knows my wife has a harder time saying no if he asks in person. So I wasn't surprised at all when Joe and his GF excitedly told us that they just found out they were expecting and GF is 9 weeks along. After the initial excitement and tears from my wife, Joe dropped the question I knew was coming. They want to move in with my wife and I while they get their feet under them because their current 1-room apartment isn't big enough for a baby. My wife looked at me and must have sensed my hesitation because she said this is something we all need to discuss first to make sure it will work. Joe and his GF agreed and told us to ask them anything. My wife asked a few questions about whether or not this was planned and what their plans are besides moving in with us. Joe and his GF started talking about how their apartment could work if absolutely needed, but it's tiny and there's no separate room for the baby. They could also save a lot of money by living with us and get a better place sooner that way. Then Joe's GF said that it wasn't planned, but they are both so excited to be parents. She said that she had to switch birth control due to a hormonal imbalance and that Joe hates condoms and it just kind of happened. Joe then laughed and joked about how much condoms suck. I had been mostly quiet up to this point. But after Joe made that joke, I spoke up. I told them that it sounds like both of them knew that GF was in a transition period with birth control and they knew this sort of thing could happen and yet still choose to be stupid about it. I told them they are both idiots if they think I am going to be okay with them moving in with us with a baby when this situation was completely preventable by them not being dumb. Joe's GF started crying and my wife and Joe immediately started consoling her. My wife scolded me for being too harsh and that we all still have a lot to talk about. My wife and I have been fighting about this ever since. She thinks we need to help in any way we can. I think that since Joe and his GF were dumb enough to get themselves into this, I don't want to end up being responsible for a baby when they inevitably do something dumb again. Comment 1. NTA. If they move in from their current residence, a few hours away, that means they both will have to quit their jobs and find new ones. At 19. I'm going to assume he's a minimum wage or a bit higher? And what does GF do? Even though it's illegal, as soon as she starts showing she's going to not get job offers. All that means OP and his wife will be paying for everything. WHO is going to provide daycare, formula, food for 4 instead of 2. You have increase in utilities, not to mention baby stuff takes so much room. What's the division of labor going to look like? How long do they think it'll take to get on their feet? I'm with OP on this. Bet Joe wouldn't dare ask his dad if he and GF could move in with him. OP comment. He works in trades and actually does okay for his age. Definitely above minimum wage and his skills are easily transferable. GF is a waitress, so that's pretty transferable too. But neither have any aspirations for higher education, so their future earning potential is limited for sure. I don't think either of them have the ability to think very far into the future. Like I said, they're idiots. Comment 2. Is this a shared home? You own? She owns? Who pays for it? She's welcome to have her son and his GF and baby move into her home if it's hers and she pays for it. But you don't have to be there for it. If it's yours or you both share the costs/mortgage, stand your ground. They'll never leave. And living with a baby will dramatically alter your day-to-day. NTA. The situation with my daughter's teacher. The only teacher that my 44F daughter Sarah, 17F, has ever had issue with is Miss Jane. From what I've heard of Miss Jane, she gives special treatment to the more popular kids because she views herself as a popular kid and wants their approval. Miss Jane turns a blind eye to a lot of bad behavior from the more popular kids in her class. One of these more popular girls, Amber, had been bullying Sarah for weeks. Miss Jane witnessed most of the bullying directly yet said and did nothing about it. I had to escalate it to administration for anything to be done about Amber, at which point she was finally given detention and had her seat moved away from Sarah's in the classes they share. After this incident, Sarah said that Miss Jane seemed to take it personally on Amber's behalf and begun grading her assignments unfairly compared to the other students. The last straw was the recent project where she gave a presentation that accounted for a good portion of her grade. It was clear that Miss Jane graded based on her personal dislike of Sarah. Just one example was that she marked Sarah for standing in one place during the presentation and not moving more. This was not in the rubric, and Sarah confirmed with her classmates that Miss Jane had marked nobody else off for that. I again had to escalate this to administration for anything to be done about it. It took fighting with them for Sarah's grade to finally be raised to the one she deserved. I also put in a request with administration to transfer Sarah into another teacher's class. I told my sister May, 40F, about this because naturally we talk about everything. The situation with my niece. Unfortunately, my niece Chloe, 19F, decided to purposely misconstrue what happened in order to create drama at a recent family event. And it's far from the first time she's done something like this. I overheard her telling my, rather uncomfortable, dad about how I was a typical Karen throwing a tantrum to get her kid's way. She was saying rude things about Sarah too, accusing her of only passing because I whined to the school, which is not even remotely true. Sarah is on the honor roll because she is highly intelligent and works hard. I pulled Chloe outside for a word, and I did dress her down for the things she'd been saying both that day and at family functions before then. I told her that don't get if she's bored or insecure about herself, and that's why she needs to make up drama all the time, but I am done with it. I've bitten my tongue before, but I'd wanted to say that to Chloe for a while now. Chloe apologized and was silent for the rest of the event. May later called me to say I was wrong for how I handled Chloe. May agreed I was okay with being frustrated, but our relatives all know Chloe tends to dramatize things because it's just what people her age do. And there was no need to embarrass her like I did. Comment 1, if someone had dressed down my cousin as a teen, maybe she wouldn't be a drama queen, self-victimizing mid-30s adult. NTA, the only way for Chloe to learn to be a functional adult is through tough lessons. Her mother is doing more harm than good. Comment 2. NTA, especially considering even her own mother acknowledged that Chloe was exaggerating and basically stirring shit against you and your daughter. It's obvious your sister wasn't going to correct the behavior and never had, since she acknowledges it's been an ongoing behavior to the point relatives know Chloe exaggerates. You don't have to put up with being lied about and having your character attacked. You didn't make a public spectacle about it either. You took her to the side and reprimanded her for her lies and behavior, which was needed. Comment 3. NTA. You are a concerned parent. Bad teachers are out there, and yes, they play favorites. I know. I had a couple of them. You actually took your niece aside instead of dressing her down in front of all the people that she had been running her mouth to about you and your daughter. In no way were you inappropriate, as she is 19 and an adult. Slander/defamation is a thing, and these young adults think it's okay, and there will be no repercussions for their actions and words. She feels entitled to slander/defame you to all your family, and mommy is backing her up and allowing her to be what she accused you of being. Because we all know that those types are just big bullies. I, 46F, am the youngest of 5 children. I was a senior in high school by the time all of my siblings had moved out. I turned 18 right before my second semester of the school year, and right after my birthday my parents told me they expected me to pay for my own rent and utilities. I was confused because they had not done this to my siblings, and asked them to reconsider as I was saving for college and moving out. They had already told me they would not be helping with my tuition, despite helping their other 4 children. However, my parents would not budge and told me if I refused, I was going to have to find somewhere else to live. I continued to live with them, paying off my expenses. With the money I gave them, they treated themselves out to dinner almost every night. They also occasionally took little vacations without me and left me at home alone for days on end. I bought my own groceries and cooked myself dinner until I graduated, and over the summer until I moved into my dorm that fall. My dad passed away a couple years ago, and now my mom feels that her house is too big and lonely to be comfortable. She asked my sibling if she could move in with them and their kids, and every single one of them refused, as they had no space. My house has a guest room, so after the previous room-related rejections, she called and asked me for my extra room. So, I told her she would have to pay rent and utilities. Over the phone, she blew up and yelled at me, calling me ungrateful and petty. She apparently also told my older siblings about this argument, and now they are contacting me, saying I should leave the past behind us and be kind to our elderly mother. The eldest, my sister, also called me petty and immature. In my opinion, they don't understand how I was treated in high school, how it felt to have everyone in my family leave me behind. Though I feel I could have been kinder to my mom, I still feel hurt about how they abandoned me financially in high school, and emotionally throughout most of my adult life. Comment 1, NTA. I would do the same thing, in your particular situation. I had a similar experience, only I was the oldest. I saw my 5 younger siblings get everything they ever asked for/needed, whilst I struggled a lot and got zero help. I like how your siblings all turned her down, not lost on me that you were her last resort, BTW, but expected you to take on the burden. If they feel so bad about it, they can make some room for her, no? Comment 2. My parents paid for my sister's college but not mine, yet I was only one to open my home to her at retirement. I don't regret it because she was a good mom, but I do wish I had talked to her and asked why. She paid a lot for them besides that, but not me. Comment 3. NTA. Stand your ground. Most parents don't believe the way they treat their children young is also how they'll be treated when it's their time to be taken care of. Your feelings are valid and deserve to be respected. This is karma. If your siblings feel the need to nag for your decision, then let them take mommy in. You're not obligated to bow down. Your siblings are allowed to say no, and you can also put boundaries or say no. I, 28M, work with this woman Lydia, 24F, who has a very annoying habit. She has a dating profile that she uses specifically to lure guys to buying her expensive dinners at restaurants she wants to try and then ghosts them. Lydia brags about this all the time, and is never interested in actually dating, but she'll act like it to sell it. I can't stand this because it's playing with people's hearts, but Lydia thinks of it as a life hack to try food or drinks she otherwise couldn't afford. My friend Daniel, 32M, is also on dating sites, but for the right reasons. His late wife died a few years ago, and he's just started jumping back into the dating scene. Daniel's a very sweet guy, and I really want him to find a great lady for him. A few days ago, he texted me asking if I knew Lydia. They matched and got to talking about work, which is how he found out we worked at the same place. I told him all about Lydia's BS with the restaurant thing, and made it very clear to him he would do best to drop things with her early on. Daniel said he'd probably still do the date but ask for separate checks. Well, they went out this past weekend, and on Monday Lydia came into work very upset. I asked her how her date with Daniel went, and she ripped into me asking if I was the one who told him not to pay for her dinner. Apparently she had Daniel take her to a high-end steakhouse and she ended up splurging. She got a drink, a full entree with a side and dessert, where Daniel just ordered a sandwich and salad. Her bill alone came to $70 something, and she was almost in tears at work as she didn't expect to pay for it, and now her car was low on gas. I got a little upset too as she tried to use my friend as a literal meal ticket, but somehow she doesn't see it that way. Daniel told me later the date was going kind of well until he asked for separate checks, and then Lydia just got weirdly cold. So now Lydia's mad at me because I told someone about her little tactic and it backfired on her. I don't feel like I did anything wrong since it was a grieving friend I was protecting, but some other people we work with said I should have stayed out of it because it was none of my business. Comment 1. NTA: This is a con known as Lonely Hearts Scam or just Romance Scam. You pretend to be romantically interested in someone, suck up as many gifts as you can, then ghost them. They often target widows/widowers because they're emotionally vulnerable. Lydia will deny it up and down because she doesn't see herself that way, but she's literally a con artist taking advantage of people. Comment 2. NTA: TBH, I'm surprised that it doesn't happen to her more often. As a guy, if I were taking someone to dinner on a date and saw them splurge at the expensive end of the menu, I'd call for separate bills at the end of the evening just to gauge the reaction. It would tell you an awful lot about your date. Comment 3. It was your business. Daniel is your friend and you protected him. You would have been a bad friend if you didn't warn him. I wish there was a way the other people she is gonna date were informed too. NTA: Lydia has been lying and exploiting people to get a thrill and a fancy meal. She is an ash, and the same goes for your co-workers that criticize you.